Okay, I think we can go ahead and get started, and I will keep an eye on the waiting room. Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to thank everybody for taking time to join us as we kick off the FDSN Spring Industry Series, as well as our little mini series that special thanks to Matt Botos and Kantha Shelke, as well as Johanna, for helping me develop this for the students, where we are trying to help them learn how to showcase their capabilities to prospective employers. Kantha is the principal of Corvus Blue, a food science and research firm that expedites development, commercialization of new food products, technologies with science and sensibility. She is also a senior lecturer at Johns Hopkins University, where she teaches food safety regulations. Kantha is a member of various boards and is very passionate about advancing the understanding of food science, nutrition, food law, food safety, culinary arts in the marketplace. Matthew Botos is the CEO and founder of ConnectFood. ConnectFood offers a step-by-step food safety plan generator to help companies comply with food safety regulations and the Food Safety Modernization Act. ConnectFood also provides on-demand plan reviews from a national network of food experts. Matthew is also a former director of the Illinois Center for Food Safety and Technology, a nonprofit consortium of Illinois food companies, regulatory personnel, and academics focused on food safety and the advancement of science and technology for both local and global food sources. Both are also very supportive of IIT and hiring our internships and helping the students develop and grow. I cannot sincerely, such appreciation from the bottom of my heart for helping with this. And I leave it to you.
Thank you, Cindy, and lovely to be here with you, Matt. While I get to share the screen, you can start talking.
You're on mute.
Thank you for everyone for joining us. It's, this is a new thing, and, Cindy, thank you for coming up with the idea, and Johanna and Kantha, thank you so much for, actually pulling it all together. But really what we want to talk about is just how great the food industry is, and then, just how big it is and how robust it is, and all the opportunities that we can have in the food industry. So if you go to you can skip the slide with our pictures, I believe, and just go to the next one. Next slide. Okay, so this just kind of shows, we talked about the revolution in food safety, right? And it doesn't have to be, when we discuss what the potential is for careers in the food industry, it starts with, in Chicago, part of it in the South Side with Upton Sinclair and the Jungle, and what are best practices that we're going to have. So there's a lot of rules and regulations now. There's actually 13 agencies besides FDA and USDA that have impact on food regulatory affairs. Implementing new technologies. So whether you want to be a regulator, whether you want to be a scientist, whether you want to be a risk manager. The middle picture there is one of the early pasteurization systems with a milk separator on the right. So I was with somebody from Alpha Laval last night. So the man named Gustave de Laval invented the milk separator, and he ended up broke, but the people that bought it from him ended up being billionaires. And pasteurization, for example, was something along the lines of, oh, you're hiding filth in food when you're doing that. And it's the same thing with food irradiation, the way it happens. So it's just so robust, the whole food industry. And then you move into the things that Johanna and Kantha and Cindy and I are working on, which is technology. I'm not here to talk about promote ConnectFood, but really we're a paper industry for the most part. So how do we use our supercomputers, right, that we all carry around with us to impact the food industry? So it's really just talking about how much there is out there in the food industry, and it can go from anywhere from being a farmer to biotechnology. So it's really quite awesome. So, and we talk about technology and academia. So networking is really important. And we're going to talk about, jobs later in the presentation, but just understanding the breadth and scope of what goes into the food industry, from transportation. So that could be airlines, it could be refrigeration, it could be so many different things that can actually impact your future in the food industry. Or, you could be, I talk with people all the time. So whether you're 20 years old or whether you're 50 years old, finding that right opportunity for yourself is embracing the technology that's around there and not being afraid to network. And there's so many organizations, between Institute for Food Technologists, different conferences. Kantha can speak to this in a little bit about the, different networks that she's been a part of and traveled recently to. So we're just excited to have everybody here for this. So there's so much out here, from, LinkedIn to having a proper digital resume. During COVID, we had this vacuum, right? So we weren't reaching each other. We weren't necessarily touching each other all the way that we used to, and having a real conversation. So knowing how to use different outlets of social media, how to connect with people. I receive a lot of emails from people that say, hey, I'd like to connect and let's do this and this and this. But I think there's a part of it about being unique. And Kantha, maybe you can speak to this in a different fashion, that how to capture someone's attention.
Thank you, Matt. There was recently done by a source pay scale that showed that 85% of open positions are filled through networking. The word networking and the concept of networking is very different depending on different people. I like to think of networking as something that inanimate objects do. Computers, you network computers, you network your devices. Human beings connect. If you can get that switch in your head and not look at something as networking, but as connecting, then you'll do something else. You will not just show up somewhere because that's where you go for networking. What is the point of going somewhere where there are other people just like you looking for the same thing? It's like fishing. If everybody has their pole in the same pond, you're going to share that. So go somewhere else, but go with someone who can show you where to find what you want to do, right? Or what, something that's unique. So connecting by design is a very, very important one. But to do all of this, you have to first invest in your career capital. This means trying to create a reputation. A person's reputation is a very powerful asset. A good professional reputation can actually affect your job offer. Just like we use Yelp to see which restaurant to go to, we sort of look around to see what others have ordered before we eat at a restaurant. People who are hiring are looking around to see what is being said about you. And based on that, they decide whether or not you should be selected. So if you want to command a larger salary, a better leadership role, or to even just get the job, you need to manage your reputation. So how do you manage your reputation? By putting your best foot forward. And that is by, first of all, starting inside with character. Character is who you are. It takes a long time to develop character. And if you come with good upbringing and with discipline, you likely have very good character. And then what you've got to do now is, okay, so you've got good character. We know that. How do you get other people to talk about you? That's what reputation is. So character is something who you are. Reputation is what others think of you. And it's reputation that matters most when you're looking for a job. So take charge, put your best foot forward, manage what others say about you. Do you know how you can do that? Very simply, by helping others. Grateful people tell others about you and your reputation spreads. Be open, be welcoming, exhibit transparency, keep your promises. If you say you're going to do something, do it. Give more than is expected. Mind your body language. And if you slip up, if you fall, apologize. A person who never apologizes is really written off by many people. But remember, America is a country of second chances. So it's okay to slip and fall. It's okay to make a mistake. It's when you pick yourself up and what you do after that really creates your reputation, and people understand that. And remember, what Matt and I are showing and sharing with you today is coming from many years of hard work and smart work. And that is a very important part of it. So when you're talking about reputation, your resume comes to mind, because your resume sort of sets the stage for what your hirer or prospective employer is really trying to gauge to see whether or not you're good for the job. So be strategic. Don't just list out all the things you've done, but tell a story, because the story kind of sticks. So say it with these tools, QMT, quality, money, and time. You can tell people I'm a food scientist, I worked to this title for so long. It doesn't tell people much. But if you said, I worked on the pathogens in honeybee and figured out a way to make it safer, or figured out a way to make its preservation cheaper, or something of that kind, you put in a quality component, a money component, and people are immediately computing and saying, what she did there, she can do here. That's what you need to do. And do this consistently. So the first thing I would do if I were you, by the way, I do this all the time with my resume, is look at my resume. I keep it consistent, but I'm honest about it. But I try and see how every bullet point tells a story. And think like the employer. So make your resume stand out. So when people look at it, they go, wow, I want to meet this person. And that's what you need to do. And the way you do that is by being authentic, explaining what you did, but saying it in such a way that, remember, I don't know if you've all read Huckleberry Finn by, who's the author? I forget his name now. But when in that, Tom Sawyer, even painting the picket fence, he made it seem so glamorous that people stepped in to help him. So similarly, whatever you do, take pride in it, describe it beautifully, like a story, and people will want to meet you. They'll want to give you a chance, and they'll want to engage you. But keep something in mind. Like a house built on sand, your resume is no better than the facts upon what it is based. So make sure you don't make it complex. Don't put a lot of jargon. Make it simple. Make it easy. Make it such that your grandmother or your 4-year-old can understand and repeat. And don't lose your audience when you're talking to them. If you see they're not interested, switch to another topic. Make sure you're talking about something that is interesting to them so that you have their attention. And don't just, tell them what you did. Explain it with an example, because that story, that narrative, they will never forget. But most of all, respect your audience. How you say something matters a lot more than what you say. And if you say it in such a way that the other person walks away thinking, this person took a lot of time to help me understand a very complex matter, they will think more of you. And that's the important part. So make sure you respect them. Make sure they get it. And always, always, always close the loop. Echo what you heard, and of course, thank them. By the way, thank you notes. A simple email or a note in the mail goes a long way to make sure you're still on top of that list of candidates that the employer is looking for. Matt?
Yeah, that last part that you just said, it's so important, especially for people that are hiring, just to, even if you don't feel like it went well, or even if it went amazingly well, just saying, thank you for your time, because, we're going to talk about, just being confident in who you are. And, we're going to talk about learning to learn, right? So at the end of the day, that first job or that third job is, once again, at dinner last night, talking to one of my mentors who I, started working for over 25 years ago, just the little things that we learn there, and, how to build that confidence. And you don't have to know everything, being confident and being arrogant are two different things, right? So, having that understanding that, hey, I want to learn. I want Kantha, if you can go to the next slide, if you don't mind, please. So there are challenges in every job. So there is no perfect job. I remember my first couple jobs as an engineer were unique. And then, I went from big industry from Tetra Pak and Alfa Laval to, working National Center for Food Safety and Technology, and just the different personalities that you have. So just understand that every time you walk into a new job or a new assignment or a new project, for lack of a better term, you're going to have personalities to deal with. So it's not always going to be that you're the best scientist in the room. It's going to be how you apply that with everybody else that you're working with in the room. So, it's just, and your first job is never going to be your last job. And a lot of people say, and everything going on in the world is so unique right now, right? So we've had 2 years of COVID, but even before that, when you change jobs, sometimes it's the best thing in the world for you, and that change is so important. 25% of all jobs in the United States are food and agricultural related. So think about that. So 1 in every 4 people you meet somehow, whether it's the restaurant industry, whether it's the engineering space, whether it's GMOs, whatever that is, all across that, somebody works in the food and agriculture industry. So there's a lot of opportunities if that, first job's not perfect, right? But you also have to go into it, as we were discussing early, with confidence and understanding that once again, you're learning to learn. I can't say that enough times. And even at my age and a gray beard, I still learn things every week from different people, and it's fantastic. And it was when we teach, especially when we teach preventive controls, for example, I always tell companies, whether it's companies or individuals or whatever it is, take this knowledge and you can take that anywhere. So it's also about expanding your skill sets. So, taking another class, learning what's going on.
Mhm.
We were on a call the other day, Johanna and I were talking about the importance of regulatory affairs overseas and having preventive controls for human foods, and then how that impacts FSVP here in the States. So we're going to have a conference at the end of the year, and we're going to talk about that. And these are people range from 20-year-olds to 80-year-olds, I guess, to go to these classes, and they're wanting to learn more about the industry and how it impacts. So I just think it's just so important for you to be open to the fact that the industry is so large and so important. So we talk about, and I tend to talk over myself many times. But it's the importance of how big this industry is. You can be it's just not food safety. So, I picked food safety as a passion for me, and you're following it through. And, we talk about how, Johanna and I have grown ConnectFood, and, we're working with other partners to do that. But quality assurance, biotechnology is so big right now. If you think about all the things there are so many plant-based pharmaceuticals that you would be amazed how that actually works. So they went from, CHOs at Chinese hamster ovaries to, plant-based technologies for biotech, to be an educator. And there's a lot of people, that we talk to and we teach, they don't want to be forward-facing. They don't have, necessarily big personalities. They just want to help people learn more things. So academia is great. Marketing, you can't turn on your TV for more than 15 minutes and not see a commercial that's around the food industry. So, once you understand that, whether it's Doritos or, Pepsi, I'm not pushing Quaker brands per se, but at the end of the day, it's, all those different things that are on there. Research and development. My first job was in R&D. It was so cool to have all these big companies come into the lab and say, hey, we want to try this. We want to try this with kiwi. We want to try it with strawberries. We want to try it with particles. We want to, And it's so much fun to do that. The government sector, the government is our partners. And that's one thing that IIT has done very well, is bring together, regulatory, academia, and industry to have real good, solid conversations around that. But, everybody thinks of the regulators as, kind of a pain, but it's necessary, and they help, and it's getting so much better. So, and a lot of that knowledge of people that I worked with in the FDA, 25 plus years ago, they're retiring. So having that new generation come in also is one thing to truly think about. Engineering and design, we talked about that first pasteurizer, and I'll reference again the conversation I had last night. We used to build scrape surface heat exchangers, and just talking about what they're doing with them, it's so interesting, and all the different things. It can go from UV lights to heat exchangers to GC mass spec to packaging. I mean, talk about, active packaging. It could be a career where you could follow, where you can actually have packaging that helps in food safety, or it helps extend a shelf life or something around that. Restaurants and culinary. We found at ConnectFood through COVID, so many smart people that the restaurants were shut down, that they found a way to pivot and put their products online. And they needed food safety plans. So they needed to have some science around. So we'd ask them, do you know what your pH is? They're like, what's pH? I'm like, well, okay, well, let's have a basic conversation. But these are people in their, 40s and 50s, not, taking a certain age range, but that didn't know what pH was, but they learned it. And so I think that's, part of the thing that we can talk to here. So, the food industry is massive. One of my favorite things to do, sometimes we'll have delegations in from other countries, is to take them to a Whole Foods. And we just walk them through there, and you look at all the products from the produce section all the way around, if it's canned goods to liquor to everything else, all the opportunity that exists in the food industry. And it's just amazing. So.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
your site. Okay.
And Matt, what you say is absolutely right. Everybody in the world wants to sell food to America, because Americans love food, and Americans probably buy more food than any other nation in the world. So it's a very big thing. So the food industry, as you pointed out, 1 in 4, everybody's employed by the food. And the best thing is we are eating food every day and many times a day, and some of us more than many times a day. So there's always a business for us. But how do you stand out in such a crowded market? That's an important thing. And, there's LinkedIn, there's all these other systems out there to help you connect, but it seems like it's all painted with the same brush. So if you want to stand out, do it first by making a personal connection, add a personal touch. I'll give you a simple tip. LinkedIn. Routinely get invitations to connect on LinkedIn with no message on it. I have no idea who the person is, or even if I know the person because I met them somewhere, I'm just wondering, why do you want to connect with me? But if you put in a note saying, hey, I do things like, I collect good people and I think you belong in my collection. Will you join me on LinkedIn? Instantly get in a thing. Or I heard you present the other day, or I saw you somewhere. I would like to learn more. I would like to stay in touch, connect. That personal touch gets you to stand out. But do your research. Don't just go in and connect with everybody. Make sure you understand them. So I'm an extremely introverted person. I don't like being pushed, and I don't like being poked. And if somebody keeps sending me notes, I'll actually just block them. So people in the food science sector tend to be somewhat quirky. They also tend to be somewhat introverted. So keep that in mind. So when you put that first step forward, do it with respect. Send them something that you think that they would like, but you would only know that because you've done your research. So that is an important one. particularly if you're applying for a job. Get to research that company. So start doing that job already and figure out something and then send them a note and say, I love your products, or I've never used your products, but here's what I think I can see, and send a little bit more than your, here's my resume, I'm looking for a job. And they will remember you. But use your other skills and experience. Connect with them. Show them that you are a sum of not just your resume, not just your education, but much, much more. Be creative. Show your earnestness. And most of all, as Matt has already pointed out, show grit. You're going to get rejected. You're going to get dropped. You're going to be passed on to somebody else who may not be half as good as you. But learn, but most of all, show grit. And also, even when you get a rejection, send them a note and let them know that you understand, but you hope that they will consider you another time around, or even ask, is there anything I can do that would make you change your mind? In fact, I did that once where it was just a client who had approached me and then said no. But when I sent back a note saying, it's you looking for something from me, but perhaps my response didn't cover it. Was there something else? Not only did they turn around, but they gave me a much bigger project and much more responsibility than I'd ever imagined. What that demonstrates is keenness and a mindset to want to grow. And if you can do that, that's very good. And by the way, you must know, especially today, especially with the internet, especially with how social media is, every one of us is being evaluated every day without even knowing it. It's an article we wrote, it's somewhere we saw, we may even be in a picture, or you're on Facebook. Make sure how you show up there is not very non-complimentary, not compromising. Very, very important. They say that 65 to 93% of a message meaning is nonverbal. Just like this image shows, what you see is a person very casually dressed, but what you see is the superhero cloak, because it's that nonverbal communication, how you present yourself, how you act, what you do before and after. All of that really goes a long way to add that superhero cloak to you. And they don't just see you as the applicant, but they see you as someone with a lot more possibility. And that's what you should be. You should be the person that stands out from the rest. So how do you get that? Do your homework. Finding a job is a full-time job. So make sure you use your advisors, your professors, your mentors, and your sponsors. What's a mentor? What's a sponsor? A mentor is someone who sits with you, acts as a sounding board, listens to you, and sort of shows you the way. A sponsor is a powerful thing. A sponsor is someone who will speak on your behalf when you are not even in the room. So when they're at the table and they're deciding whom to choose, if you had created a sponsor among the interviewers, this person's going to say, I know, but I like this interviewee because, and they will sponsor you, because someone who speaks for you will advocate for you. They will also encourage you to strive for the best. And how do you get a sponsor? You can do this in everyday dealings. In fact, this morning, I remember writing a note to two students who did some work for me. And in my note, I said, be assured I will sponsor you if you ever need help with your career. It came just because of what they did for me as an intern. And that's what getting a sponsor means. If you do your best, the recipient will automatically want to sponsor you. And when you get sponsorship, if Matt sponsors you, it's huge. I've known Matt for more than 20 years. Matt is very well known in the industry of food processing, in the area of food safety, in the political sector. Anybody who's anybody, Matt knows them. So you all have met Matt. It's true, Matt. I've seen you from a long time, since when you worked with Chuck Sizer. But if you know Matt, it's not enough to just say, hey, Matt, how's the weather? Or some scores of some game. No, if you did something in such a way that Matt goes, I remember that. I remember they did this for me, and he will sponsor you. That's what you do. So what that means is to keep company with the right people and to stay in touch. Stay in touch not only with people on top, but people below you, your peers, your past, your present colleagues, etc. And that takes a skill. I actually put it in my calendar and I set it up so that I remind myself whom to reach out to. And sometimes it'll be a joke, it'll be a corny joke. They know if it's a food joke, it's coming from me. But the flip side of that is a lot of my former students will send me jokes because they know corny, she'll like it. They send it. And then I automatically ask, what are you doing? And one of them will say, looking for a job. Oh, really? There's a job here. That's how you keep doing it. So you have to do this regularly. Remember, the importance of connections is more valuable than anything else. So it's not just networking, but it can take you from being a candidate to someone with competitive advantage. So if you want to get to yes, know the industry, know yourself, know who you are, tell the story, look beyond the web. Don't just go on LinkedIn and these various job boards. Make people connections, write your resume, read your resume out and see that it reads with a narrative that people like. Continue in all that you do to get a sponsor. And if you've got a good sponsor and a good mentor, you've already nailed how to deal with interviews. And if you can do that, then you can get the job because that shows you are the best.
And part of the whole reason that we're doing all this is so that you have an outlet and a resource to come to. So, if Johanna, myself, Kantha, Cindy, the IIT in general, if you need something, we'll be, we can be there. Also, to your points, being social is so important. Some of the best and worst things that have ever happened to me have happened in social situations where you meet somebody, you make your mistakes, and it's okay to make those mistakes. And also learn from other people's mistakes. So if you see something that you didn't like and someone else was doing, don't do that. And it's basic human nature, but just to put that out there. So, but go ahead with additional resources if you want.
Absolutely. And Matt, you talked about a couple of those, but there's also these are good for just to look for jobs, but don't just go and apply. Once you see a job, step back and then try and figure out, who do I connect with? Who do I know that's 1 degree away from that job so that they can sponsor me, and figure that part out. And also I know we are all active on social media, voluntarily or involuntarily. What we do, our jobs, we write, we research, all that stuff. Somebody's writing about us if we don't do it ourselves. So monitor that and make sure you pay attention to what's being shown. And if somebody does present you in bad light, it happens, be able to stand up and defend yourself. That's a very important part. And it's not the mistake, but it's how you explain it and what you do after that really sticks in that person's mind. And by the way, if you want to look for tips and tricks, I've given you these 2 sites that talk about how to do some of these things. And I think that they might give you some ideas. Most of all, remember, try and be your authentic self. When you're authentic, you're not trying to be someone else. You don't have to worry about what lies or etc. It's just you. Just make your authentic self much better and make someone that the interviewer absolutely trusts you. Because if you're authentic, they will trust you. And if they trust you, they will want you for the job. They will want you over the person they like because they trust you. And getting to trust is a very difficult way. You have to do this every day, every minute, because your ultimate goal is not only to get the job, but to continue to do really well on that job. Because until you retire, you're going to be looking for another job. So this is something you practice every day. Anything else, Matt?
I think at the end of the day, it's about, and I've seen this more and more, it's almost cliche, but you need to be happy with what you're doing. So if you're thinking about a job that's $50,000 a year that makes you super happy, or a job that's $120,000 a year that makes you miserable, take the 50. I mean, it's at the end of the day, the one thing that I've really learned is, working hard is super important, and we never stop. But I have a smile on my face all the time, and then sometimes I have to schedule a nap. And but there is, just do what makes you happy. And to go back to our earlier conversation a little bit, it takes time to find that. So you'll get there. Sometimes you find it in the first one. I loved my first job. I loved my second one. Third one I didn't like so much. Then I went out on my own. But you learn from all those experiences. So this is new for us in IIT. So we just want to thank everybody that joined. If there's any questions now, Cindy, I think we'll turn it back over to you if you want to field any questions.
And you may want to turn on your cameras. We are here to talk with all of us. So turn on your cameras. Who cares if you're in your pajamas? We only see your face.
You can see my superhero collection over there.
Yes, students, if we can get you to show your faces, that would be great. And please, we welcome any and all questions. This is for your benefit. Take advantage of the time while you have people willing to talk with you.
And you can
Any
also email us or put them in chat. Sure. Also, this is not just a 1 hour thing. This is Cindy and IIT have created an ongoing program here that we're excited about.
Definitely. We have no questions at all, students.
Hello.
I have
hello.
Okay.
Okay. So myself is Ankita. Actually, I have the questions that when interviewer asks us about why this position or why this company. So what should be the answer I should be prepared with?
Well, why are you applying to that company?
Yes. So yeah.
I do have a small suggestion, and I think Matt may have something else. We often make a mistake of thinking that we are going to a company to get a job and it's all about us. But if you turn that around and position yourself as in, I have these skills and I'm coming here to help you and I can do this job for you, then it doesn't come to why this job, but more as in, what else can you do for me? So switching that conversation requires you to how you present yourself right from the very get-go. Matt?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think some people just keep applying for jobs instead of going back to your earlier point that we were talking and doing the research on the company. So I remember, being an agricultural and biological engineer from Purdue, Frito-Lay was the place that everybody wanted to go. It's an amazing company. There's no doubt about it. They had a bunch of jobs. I just didn't really want to make chips. And so, I found an opportunity where I could go build heat exchangers. And so that was my first job. So, just don't take the first thing that pops up. But I would suggest that big companies offer so much opportunity because they will continue to educate you. So, but that doesn't take away from small companies like the way Johanna runs operations at ConnectFood. We've had 20 interns from IIT, I think, over the years. And it's an educational process, and we're a smaller company. So you just have to find that right personality. It's interesting.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank
you. I hope that answered your question.
Yes, yes, definitely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, this is Abhishek Gawane. I am a master's student doing food process engineering, and I have a question about pre-interview doings. Like, I have a call from a company. In next 10 days, I will be having an interview. So I know the names of the interviewers who are going to interview. So is it the right time to connect to them before the interview, or it will not look good?
So for me, I would just say, thank you for the opportunity. I'm looking forward to speaking with you, but doing research on people, because they'll see that on LinkedIn or whatever that is, or the profile in the company. But, just a few days before saying, hey, I'm really excited. I've studied up on the company. I'm looking forward to meeting with you. Keep it simple, for lack of a better term, you're not trying to butter them up per se. You're just being 100% professional. Looking forward to it. I've read up on the company, and this would be great. So, but if you get people when they send me emails and they get like trying to get in my head, I have to move it aside. Like I don't have time for it. But if somebody just says, hey, I'm looking forward to our call coming up, I'm like, that's awesome. So.
And I would add to that, and I would say, do your research, if I understand you correctly, but don't connect with them on LinkedIn, because to them, then they are, first of all, some of us have that little note that we know who's looking at us. So that's okay. That's perfectly fine. But if you send them a note, it has to be something like Matthew just said, here, I'm looking forward to it. But it is more important to do it afterwards, where you are conveying to them, because you have to remember, an interview, you don't keep right notes. But now you remember that, and you have to remember this person talked about a dog in the process or something, and this person by said something about a child. So when you send that note, put a little note and say, that thing you said about the dog, here's what I found out. Or if there was a question you didn't answer, you respond to that. So to the interview, that you only get one chance to make a really good impression. Don't blow it by connecting with them before. Do it on your interview, and then continue to build on it. And remember, as I said, America is a country of second chances. So you can bomb at your interview, but you can also come back and say, by the way, I had a cold, I was very sick. You could do all of that. Or you could just come back and say, here are things I didn't address, and I think you need to know, even if you choose not to go with me. They will realize you're interested. That's important.
Thank you very much, because I was very confused. I was doing research on them, but I was thinking, should I connect or not? Thank you for that.
Just don't send flowers or anything like that.
No. No. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. And when you're a student and when we are new, especially when you're from another culture, sometimes you struggle with letter writing. Like, what do? Do we say how, if it's a friend, you can say, hey, how was your Sunday? But you don't do that to someone you're just meeting for the. So when it's someone who is, potential employer, you don't know them well, you just start with good morning or dear or hello. And then you start with simply, thank you for, whether they sent you a note or thank you for the consent. Always start with a thank you if you can. If you can't, you can just say, the purpose of my note is this. Just write it and then explain the thing, and then end it with looking forward to your response or wishing you the best. That's it. Don't go with hope you're having a good day, because all of that clutters the email. And people like me who have a very short attention span, I only read the first sentence and I get so buried in it.
What'd you
I
say?
miss your message. Exactly.
Okay,
Very
I
good
got it. Thank you,
demonstration. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I have one.
Okay.
Can you guys hear me clear, by the way?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm a undergraduate chemistry major, my third year right now, and I've been kind of creeping into the food science industry and whatnot, and I've seen some of the application. I did start sending them, but I see that some companies accept only food science related degrees. They don't even mention whether they look for like similar ones, because I look at what they're doing and what their plan is, and I'm saying, well, they use the instruments, the exact same ones I use in my lab, but I have
Like
a chemistry degree.
HPLC and the GC mass
Yeah,
spec
HPLC, GCMS,
Yeah,
all that
yeah,
ones,
sure.
but like they only are looking for the food science degree. So my question is, do you think there is a small stigma in the industry that if without a food science degree, it is much hard to get into the food industry on its own?
So I think that, and we can talk about this, it's about how you build your resume, right? So if you want to take one of the first things that you put, in the title, your description of yourself, for example, interested in food and the chemistry that goes into packaging and other things that we can do to create new products. So you can also, we didn't touch on this, you can have 2 or 3 different resumes. So you can have a pure chemistry resume, and then you can put on, attended seminars, through food science at IIT. So you can add things in there just by being on this call. So, you can change that first header a little bit, passionate about food and the chemistry that happens with it, and then talk about what you've done with your chemistry degree. So if you look at, when I was at the Illinois Center for Food Safety and Technology, we did a lot just on plastics and irradiation of plastics and how that happened. And that had nothing to do with food. I mean, we were looking at the leaching potential that it would have there, but it was all pure chemistry. And so there's tons of opportunity from there.
Right. I put something in the chat, but I think you have a very good question, Alexandra. I'm an organic chemist, and I came from organic chemist, and my master's degree was in organic chemistry of natural products, and I worked on synthesizing a hormone. How does that translate to food? Well, it's very difficult. And the way you do that is by taking little steps one at a time, taking a class, reading a book, quoting a chapter, and then connecting with somebody at the various companies. So the Institute of Food Technologists and IIT, you folks have a lot of events where people from outside come in. Go talk to them, and one of them is sure to connect you and show you some of these jobs that are out there. By the way, the American Chemical Society has a very strong chapter in food and agriculture, which is mostly chemicals, in Chicago. So, and you've got several members who are members of the FDA and who are also members of that at your institute. So you should be able to connect through them, and you will be able to personally figure out the number of chemical companies that are here that want people like you.
Yeah, and it's amazing. You remember Monsanto started as a chemical company, so, and then it turned into an agricultural giant. Johanna just sent me a note as a great reminder. It's better to apply and do the interview than wonder and not apply and wonder, right? And so looking at those machines that you work with is also something she mentioned, the certifications that they go with. So, like DuPont, for example, we had a DuPont machine for years, and we were doing PCR with it. And we were just, you can do that in many different levels. But DuPont was a chemical company, right, to start. So there's tons of opportunity. But to Johanna's point, don't be afraid to apply and, have that different resume.
And Joanna also brought up another topic that might help you. She mentioned certifications when we were presenting, putting this presentation together. So some of these certifications are simply grit and resilience. It involves you after your day's work to sit down, to study, to read, and to apply and get a certification, whether it is a food safety one or a food fraud and food defense one. There's some things that are related that have a lot to do with chemistry. If you went in with that angle, you will stand out from the rest and get to the top of the pile.
Thank you so much. I actually have a follow-up question to that. I'm a third year and I'm going my fourth year next semester. So I have around 3 or 2 semesters left, depending how I take it. My question is, what would you think are like really the core FDSN examples of classes that I can still fill up into my transcript before graduating? I know that IIT offers things like the nutrition classes, quality management. There are some others talking about food packaging, for example. Which ones would you think are like good skills to take?
I would say as a chemistry major, if you could pick up, just one class in food packaging, that'd be great. I forgot who's teaching that right now. It used to be George Sadler, but you can't go wrong with the nutrition angle either, because that's fundamental, building blocks the same way chemistry is. So, pick up one of the two, and then you can highlight that in your resume for the food side of it.
Thank you so much.
Anyone else?
Well, let me ask you all a question. What is your greatest challenge as you're getting ready for this job? You can put it in the chat, or you can, shout it out. What do you find daunting about finding a job? Because every one of you is looking for something to do right after you graduate, right? What are your top challenges?
None of you have nothing to say?
No, they're
I have some comments on that actually.
Yeah.
I found that time management is definitely of essence, because not on top of like some people have 12 credit hours, 15, 18. You on top of that, you're trying to find time to do research on the company and also what are all the possible things, right? But that's not the only thing. As you said, people also spend time to have connections, to build their new resumes, maybe even multiple resumes, that also letters that they need to write. So I think that for me, the biggest challenge was to just try to find time to do as much research as I would hope to do, but something that's just limited.
In fact, your time management, the ability to quickly send back a thank you note, the ability to get something done fast is one of the reasons why somebody will pick you over someone else, because it means you're organized. And some of us, I am one of those, really struggles with organization because I have my finger in every pie. And then trying to figure out which one comes first is always a problem. So I have learned over time, project management and time management, no matter what job, are the reason why somebody will trust you in that job. And remember, trust is more important. See, technical knowledge anybody can get. That attitude and ability is something you've got to demonstrate from the get-go. You got to show, I can do it, I'm good at this, and I'm really interested. And they go, yeah, this person was eager, let's go with that. That's what you know. Anybody else?
Yeah, actually there are some problems in like writing summary. Like someone is saying don't write summary about yourself, someone is saying just write this thing about yourself. Then like we are not getting what to exactly do, like what to exactly write in that. Or else someone is saying that don't write a cover letter, if it is not good then there are much chances they will reject you or something like that. And the second like thing is if we are applying for this position or this thing, so like while preparing for interview they ask us about like behavioral questions, so how to prepare for that? Like there are some of these things which are like
So,
major.
so I would say that, the cover letter thing, I do like a cover letter, and that, but some people don't. But remember, interviewing is like dating. It doesn't always go well, right? But sometimes it's perfect. So you just be genuine, be yourself. And if you want to write a cover letter and tell your story, then do it. Other people have different opinions. And then, but be true to yourself and in your resume and whatever information you send. And that's the best advice that I can give.
Absolutely. And remember that story, Aesop's fable, the father, the son, and the donkey? Everybody gave them a different piece of advice. And when you keep listening to them, you lose the donkey. So at the end of it all, be authentic. Just be yourself. And if you're the person who writes a cover letter, write it. But write it, just always keep the receiver in mind and make sure that, pretend it's me. I have no attention span. So you need 3-sentence emails. After third sentence, I'm off. So you got to, make sure you put that in, make it light, make it delightful, and they'll like it. About the behavior question, one of the reasons people ask the behavior questions is they're actually not listening to your answer. They're watching you. They're watching your discomfort. I hate those questions. What's your worst skill? What are you really good at? I'm neither going to tell you this or that, right? But I have learned over time to look at the job and see what aspect of me in that job will be really good and will be really bad. So I can say, well, you've got a position for a nutrition analyst, right? That's the word, a nutrition analyst. So I can say, well, I pay attention to details. So in your job, my attention to details means you will never have to check my work. It'll be good.
Yeah.
Then what is my bad point? I can also say, well, my bad point is until I get it done, I may not go home. And so I may be sitting at your place for 22 hours. That's my bad point. So they kind of know a little bit yay or nay. Or you can say, I struggle with certain things, and that's okay. That's perfectly okay.
So I guess, yes, I agree with you 100%, but also to close out, Johanna just sent me a note saying, remember, what are they asking for? So they may not ask for a cover letter. They may ask for a cover letter, so that every application will be different. So I think at the end of the day, it's a wonderful world. The food space is amazing. There's so much opportunity. You know, I just want to say thank you to everybody for joining here. I know we're closing, and
Yes.
I have a 2 o'clock that I need to jump on, but you know, our emails, you know, email Cindy, any questions, anything that you have. If you want to set up a quick chat, if you want to do a 10-minute chat, we're happy to do that and just, you know, figure out how we can help you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you for coming.
Cindy, thank you.
Thank
got
you. I
any-
was just, thank
Any
you,
closing
everybody.
words?
I was just doing a little special thanks to everyone for attending in the chat.
Okay.
And a
All right.
special thanks to Joanna for all the help she gave us. Thank
And
you,
Matthew,
Joanna.
is that the Erica that you thought it was? Erica's showing her face.
She didn't pop up. She didn't say anything.
Erica, do you know Matt? You're on mute. Oh,
Yeah, we were in Serbia together.
seriously?
Yeah.
Erica, can you hear us? Okay, you're off mute now.
Oh, we can't.
Oh,
We
Speaker's
can't
not
hear you.
working. The
Oh,
speaker's
okay.
not working. Yeah.
Okay.
Erica, send me an email. Let's talk.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good day.
All
Bye-bye.
right. Take care,
Thank you,
everybody.
Thank you so
Bye-bye.
much.